it is my honor to be the celebrant for today's gathering. We'll go ahead and just stop the music for now. Thanks. Okay, so we'll just take a moment. I'm going to invite everyone to become still and quiet. Give yourself a chance to shake off any stress from your journey to get here today, and to just become present. You're welcome to close your eyes, to notice your breath, to feel the chair beneath you and your feet on the earth. Some of you may choose to say a silent prayer. Others may choose to reflect on Terry's life and the meaning it holds for you. But let's just take a few breaths together to be still and go within, to create a sacred space where we can hold Terri in our thoughts and in our hearts and feel her spirit here with us today. I'd like to begin with these words from the poet Mary Oliver. A human life is sacred. It is sacred in its being born. It is sacred in its living. It is sacred in its dying. The sorrow and the joy of life weave a tapestry of our individual lives as death gathers us once again into a blessed community. I hope that at the end of this farewell ceremony for Terri, you'll feel glad that you took the opportunity to do some of your grieving in the presence of others who've known and loved her. We're all concerned, directly or indirectly, with the death of any individual, for we're all members of one human community. Though some of the links between us are strong and some are tenuous, each of us is joined to all the others by links of kinship or work, love or friendship, by living in the same neighborhood or town or country, or simply by our common humanity. The separateness, the uniqueness of each human life is the basis of our grief in bereavement. If we look throughout the entire world, we would find there has never been another person quite like Terri. But she lives on in your memories, and though no longer a visible part of your lives, she will always remain a member of your circle through the influence she's had on you and the special part she's played in your lives. And now Terry's brother Paul will share a reading of the Desiderata, followed by eulogies from him and his brother Gary and sister-in-law Deb. Desiderata was written in 1927 by Max Ehrmann. It is the Latin word for things to be desired. And it is a fitting tribute to a woman who was eternally positive and upbeat, who saw the good in everyone and everything. Paul?
Hello, everyone. Go placidly among the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself to others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially to not feign affection, neither cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and the disenchantment, it is a perennial, as is the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of your youth. Nurture strength of Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in the sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are the child of the universe no less than the trees and the stars. You have the right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. And whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. Thank you.
Well, my name is Gary, and one of Terry's little brothers. And talk about a little bit. Irene, Terri is my brother, and I have always knew her best. She was known as that since she was small, since we were small children. She adopted that name back, or nickname back in grade school, when she was in grade school. And that's what we knew her by. Unfortunately, she was our favorite sister, but she didn't have a favorite brother. Or she couldn't say so. She had two of them, so we think she probably did, but who knows? We don't worry about that. My brother and I were fortunate to have a favorite sister and a favorite brother. So Terri was our mentor and a therapist. She had been through much therapy herself, so she became an expert at it. And since the three of us are so much alike, she shared with us what we should know about ourselves. And that was really great, helpful, and effective in our lives, learning those things, without having to go pay a therapist. Terri is willing to give us free advice. So we're lucky that we are siblings in our family, that we're very close with each other. And we talk about things very close, intimate detail, and everything else we always have between the three of us. And we're very lucky to have that, because a lot of families are always feuding with each other, always got some kind of battle going on. So we think that we're kind of an unusual family. We're not normal, because we get along so well. So Terri was the glue that held us together, and we will continue with that. Let's see, my first memory of Terri was when she taught me to have personal strength by teaching me to stand up to bullies when I was about 5 years old. I faced one in Bangor, Maine, and then again in Ignacio, California, here just north of San Rafael. And that worked great, and stood up to them, and never had a problem with the bullies since then. All they had to do is challenge them, and they would back down, so that was easy. I remember Terri for her witty personality, and she could be wild and crazy, and I'm sure you all have seen that in her. And she loved to play pranks. She would also be full of care, compassion, sympathy, empathy, and love. She had a genuine interest in people, and there were many hilarious things that she said and did that sometimes I just can't remember them all, and I was kind of grasping at strings here trying to find a good story to tell. I did find one. I finally remembered it this morning. It's back when I think I was in the 5th grade. She and one of her friends were doing perms in their hair. And that was back in the day when Elvis Presley was popular. And we all tried to have that hairstyle, you know. So, and I wore that style too. And she looked at me when they were doing that, doing the perms, and says, "Gary, come here." I was innocent, I didn't know what was coming. And she says, "We'll make look a little more like Elvis. We'll put a curl in your hair in the front there." That was back when I had no hair. So she did that. She gave me a perm in the middle here, in the front, and it came out in such a tight curl It was like a coil spring hanging down the middle of the floor. And I was okay with it until I went to school. And everybody else harassed me about that, so. I think she got a pretty good laugh out of it. She tricked her brother. Not fair to do that to your little brother, is it? Anyways, I don't have a whole lot to say because my brother and his wife have written so much about Terri that it would just be repeating everything in that. So they say a lot of things to that. That's wonderful. So I say ditto, to what they say. They say everything I would, so I just don't want to be redundant. So I guess Paul is next.
Hello, it's me again. I'm Terry's brother, Dwayne, otherwise known as Paul. Some of you have probably heard both versions. Same person, Dwayne Paul. I'd like to thank everyone for coming here to celebrate the life of my sister, Clarene.Lundgren, better known as Terri. And there's so much to say about my sister that it's really hard to know where to begin. So that's why I wrote this script for myself, because I can't do this all just freestyle. So anyway, Terri's always been the most wonderful sister anyone could ever ask for. She was always supportive to me in all my endeavors, my emotional hard times, as well as my joys, triumphs, and celebrations. She supported me in everything that I pursued, including telling me that I should do comedy. Terri was one of our witnesses when my beautiful wife Deb and I got married. And Terri and Deb were like close sisters. We'd all talk on the phone for hours. And when we were in person, we'd talk for hours also. So it was a lot of fun. We shared so many stories of joy, and we enjoyed a lot of laughter. Anyone who knows Terri, there's a lot of laughter. We would laugh ourselves to tears sometimes. And I'm really gonna miss that. Terri and I shared the same sense of humor. We got each other. We understood each other's sense of humor. We interact with each other quite a lot and joke with each other. Sometimes it'd be comments that other people might think of as mean, but it was all in fun spirit. And so we really understood each other's humor. Terri told me about her lifestyle when I was maybe 15 years old. It was a mind-opening topic for me to learn about at that age. And that so many of Terri's friends, and all of you, are really wonderful people. And I'm lucky to have met all of you. Some of you I don't know real well, but I've met you. But I've seen the evidence that, that all of Terri's friends are just wonderful, and she saw you all as family. But anyway, one of the things I learned from Terri at that age, when I learned about her lifestyle, is we're all the same. We're all just human beings trying to make it in this world. And to find the love of family and friends, support, peace, happiness, and to live in harmony with each other, that's what matters. Terri traveled with us often. She would bring along such joy on our trips, and of course, lots of laughter. Notice that the word laughter comes up a lot when we talk about Terri. In my lifetime, Terri's been with me to Disneyland, Hollywood, including studio tours of Universal Studios and NBC Studios, the North Shore in Minnesota, visiting aunts and uncles in their cabins on the lake in Pine City, Minnesota, among many other places. We've been to parks together, walked around Lake Phelan and Lake Como in St. Paul when she'd come home to Minnesota to visit. And we talked the entire time. There's always conversation. We listened to the same music. The first time I ever went to a disco back in 1977, the year I graduated from high school, it was with Terri. Kind of took me out as a celebration of high school graduation. And what a fun time that was. I continued to go to the discos until I met my first wife, Tina, who is no longer with us. She's the mother of our now grown children, Denise, Dale, and Dustin, all of whom will dearly miss their Aunt Terri. She was a favorite aunt amongst her nieces and nephews. Terri was a wonderful artist, as everybody here knows, and a wonderful art teacher, but not only did Terri's students learn from her, Terri also learned from her students. As an example, she learned Spanish from her students, so she could have conversations and ask her things at the store and whatnot. And also, they introduced her to some really great music. I always look forward to to visits with Terri when she would fly home to Minnesota, or when I'd fly out here to California to see her. We always had adventures and things to see and do, like walks along the river, eating at her favorite places, how she loves food, and of course, Leatherby's. We always had to go to Leatherby's Family Creamery for ice cream. It's one of my favorites too. I have to come 2,400 miles to get to it. We've had a couple visits there. There's going to be at least one more before we leave here. But Leatherby's was a must for us. Like me, Terri loved chocolate. We agreed that dark chocolate is always the best. This is true for any chocolate too, but dark chocolate is just special. The only difference between Terri and I with chocolate is that she could eat nuts and I cannot. There's so many things, so many more stories and memories I could tell about Terri, but there's simply not enough time here today. It's really a lifetime worth of stories and memories. In conclusion, I'm going to miss my sister, Terri. Her constant support and our long talks on the phone and in person when we were visiting. I will miss Terri's unconditional love and affection. I will miss her delightful laugh, that tee-hee-hee laugh. I will miss Terri's beautiful face and her smile and her colorful scarves. We all agree that Terri's beautiful. She's a beautiful woman and a beautiful spirit. I will miss my sister, and I will love her as long as I live and beyond. Thank you.
No one here to guide you. Now you're on your own. Only me, but
dear friend Greg Merlino wasn't able to be here today, but he sent this lovely audio recording, so we're going to play that for you now.
Hello, this is Gregory Merlino. I'd like to say a few things about my best friend, Terri. Clarene.Lundgren went by Terri to her friends and family. I remember her just explaining to me that when she moved to Sacramento, she wanted to choose a name she felt comfortable with, and that was the name Terri. Terri and I met in 1975, 47 years ago. I was in the Air Force up at Beale Air Force Base north of Sacramento. I met her shortly after meeting Bob Schrader, who introduced us to each other. Bob took me over to Terry's apartment one day. I remember entering her home, and she was at the table by the window. She looked up at me, and our eyes met. It was an instant connection. I was confused in a way, as I thought I had met her before. She seemed very familiar to me. We talked a lot that day, and I felt that she was interested in me. I was very interested in her as well. It was a good first meeting. I was a shy young man at the time, and I felt that I had met a good friend. I loved her from that day on. I remember many years when Terri remained in Sacramento and I was sent to many cities with my occupation. Terri and I kept in touch for most of those years. We would talk for hours on the phone, telling of our daily lives. We spoke of everything and anything. That was so wonderful. There were no barriers to our thoughts and dialogue. We went to Europe together. That was so much fun. I remember Terri as a great art teacher. I know she had a great impact on many young people. She described several times later in her life where students she had taught saw her in public and came up to her to thank her for her kindness and understanding as a teacher. I think that might have been her true gift to the world, her inspiration to the young people at school. I think she just loved them, validated them, listened to them, and made them feel understood and cared for. She was always that way with me. By the way, I always wanted to know what made good art. She gave me a good tip. She said, look at it. Do you like it? If you like it, then it's good. Terri was a beautiful soul. Everyone knows she never had a harsh word for anyone. Of course, life happens and there are hurts and pains. Terri always was able to express hers to me in a mature and kind way. I always felt she deserved a world without those things. Terri passed on October 29th. I miss her terribly. I'll see her again someday in heaven. Goodbye for now, my friend. I'll still talk with you every day in spirit. I love you.
My name is Deb Lundgren, and I have the distinct pleasure of being married and partner to Paul Lundgren, and by default, I became the sister to Terri Lundgren. So to all of you who have dearly loved Terri, I'm so grateful that you're here today. And please bear with me as I have to read this aloud, because I know it's going to be a big hot mess if I didn't. So thank you. In sum, everyone loved Terri. I first met Terri as part of a package deal, 2008. I was dating her little brother Paul, otherwise known as Dwayne. I remember thinking how warm, caring, and genuine she seemed, and that this was, in Minnesota terms, a pretty darn good deal. I was struck by her warm demeanor, her laugh, and her beautiful smile. She had an amazing smile. Her warm hello, an invitation, a place of welcoming, safety, and sometimes mischief. I could tell that she was colorful, vivacious, and full of life. She wore these beautiful multicolored scarves that framed her face, choices that echoed her love of color and texture and light and all things beautiful. She spoke in an animated fashion on a variety of topics, from the mundane to the philosophical. She had traveled extensively, and she spoke highly, often, and with great affection of her friends. Terri immediately engaged me in conversation when we met and included me as if I'd known her for years. I came to realize that I had a 2-for-1, a lovely man, and now a new friend to boot. Little did I know that at the time how much she would occupy my heart and what a special friend and confidant she would become to me. Terri and I are both educators. We shared a common passion for education and would talk shop. Terri worked for over 30 years at McClatchy High School, where she taught high school art classes, and in her professional life, she touched countless students. She empowered them not only by teaching skills and fostering curiosity, but by giving them choice, empathy, and most importantly, by letting them be who they are. She bolstered their confidence by allowing them to express themselves and to be themselves through their art. She taught far more important things than content, although she taught that too, and developed extensive curricula for the program. She taught her students how to be in the world, how to express yourself, how to make choices, how to value the opinions of yourself and others, how to work together as a team in group projects, and how to take pride in your accomplishments. Her teaching enabled students to develop confidence in themselves and to see themselves as valuable and valued. In art, you aren't limited to one right answer or one-dimensional thinking. There are many choices, many paths, and many perspectives. And to become kind, productive, and critical thinking citizens, this is what her teaching allowed her students to do. Her career allowed her to love deeply and to share that love daily. She was very proud and grateful for her work at McClatchy and had a boundless enthusiasm for it. She was an amazing teacher, and her students would come back specifically to visit her and to say thank you after they graduated. She had a profound impact on the lives of others. But for me, it was the personal and not the professional Terri that I had the good fortune of befriending and loving. Terri loved to talk. She'd call us, or we'd call her, and we'd talk for hours, literally. We'd sometimes talk all three of us together, sometimes just one-on-one. We'd talk about everything and nothing. We'd solve the world's problems, unravel political dilemmas, discuss climate change, art, healthful eating, the news, COVID, relationships, PEMF, family, and how lucky we were to have meaningful careers. I could sometimes get my laundry folded and put away, or take a sauna, or go on a walk, or finish my commute, or make soup while talking to Terri. We would sometimes FaceTime with her, and I'd share beautiful places we were visiting. For Paul and myself, our first impulse was to share anything that was exciting or beautiful or sad or happy or funny or fun in our lives, and to call and text. Our last text to Terri was after we had seen my friend Katie Tessman sing and perform with her brilliant guitarist son at 318 Cafe in Wayzata, Minnesota on October 20th. As we would commonly do, we sent her photos and video of the event. Her last text to us was, in classic Terri form, to reply, "And the fun continues!" Double exclamation point. Smiley face, heart, smiley face, heart, face, smiley face, musical notes, smiley face, heart. I miss her, and I have to resist that urge now. I have to remind myself that, oh yeah, I can no longer call nor text Terri. Despite our homes being physically distant, we shared our lives. And as you know, Terri made friends literally wherever she went. The grocery store, in the airport, the restaurant, while waiting in line. Myself, an introvert, I would constantly marvel at the ease with which she would do this. And she was in her true best form when she went to a party. A party was Terri's happy place. She was genuinely interested in other people and was always excited to share and learn more about them. And as it's already been mentioned, when there was Terri, there was sure to be laughter. Terri loved a good joke, especially groaners, such as, what do you call an angry carrot? A steamed veggie. Or what do lawyers wear to court? Lawsuits. She loved all types of tomfoolery. Every year, we made these Elf Yourself videos. I don't know how many of you received them. I see some nodding heads. Yes. She loved those Elf Yourself videos. I was going to share, but we have some technical difficulties, but she just loved them, and they were silly and they were fun. It tickled her when we spontaneously broke out in a West Coast swing in front of the Bellagio at the Water the Ballet during our trip to Las Vegas, or when we guffawed during the YMCA routine during the Vegas show that we saw, or when we ran Chinese fire drills in the middle of the road when visiting her in Sacramento. For those of you who don't know, a Chinese fire drill is where you stop at a stop sign, you jump out of the car, you run around, and then you just get back in the car and go your merry way. She'd don silly hats. She'd make goofy poses for photos, including one, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil, and at our wedding. In one instance, I'd rumor of an elaborate fake prank call scheme created by Terri and her accomplice friends. She had a sign in her kitchen that read, "The only reason I have a kitchen is that it came with the house," which was true, by the way. She's now above a bit of mischief, and she loved a good laugh. As her artist self, Terri loved the visually beautiful and was drawn to it in all its forms. As Keith wrote, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever." Her home, her clothing choices, her activities, her shopping choices all reflect this joy. She loved the visual arts, photography, watercolor, oil painting, sketches, ceramics, video, film, crafts, architecture, sculpture. She noticed beauty everywhere. In sunsets, nature, landscapes, fashion, people, architecture, intricate doorways. We visited the Uptown Art Fair on numerous occasions with a requisite stop at Sebastian Joe's Ice Cream Parlor for chocolate, the Loring Art Festival, the Minnesota Renaissance Festival, the Crocker Art Museum, various craft fairs, Minneapolis, Stillwater, Anoka, Lake Tahoe, Monterey, and Sedona art and antique shops and centers. It's always a visual feast to be with Terri. Terri would also seek out beautiful places, both when she traveled herself or when we traveled together. She took amazing photos as fodder for her paintings. Artists can see things differently from multiple perspectives, and Terri would capture unique vantage points or ways of seeing. She'd use her photography to capture patterns, color, light, images, moods, perspectives. She'd apply her talent and frequently paint not only beautiful or interesting paintings from her photos, but would create signs, postcards, birthday cards, t-shirts, and note cards. Paul and I went to the National Gallery and Hirshhorn's museums in DC. All I could think of was, Terri would love this. Terri's philosophy on art was, if you like it, it's good. But Terri loved arts of all types, not just the visual arts. She loved music, dance, theater, performing arts as well. And we went to the Guthrie, Bloomington Center for the Arts, outdoor theater performances, the Fringe Festival, and to our dances. We shared this passion for the arts, and it was always a joy to compare notes about our reactions to a painting, to squeal about a find, to listen to enjoy musicians, or to watch Native American dancers, or discuss a show. And Terri loved music. She amassed an affordable collection of CDs and created music mixes that she would gift to her friends as well as to us. Her gifted music has become the soundtrack to our daily lives. Huge Groove, Loved by Out of Noise, Eva Cassidy, Diana Krall. She would describe her delight at attending dances with Jammin Jo at the helm and seeing her friends. She enjoyed attending live concerts where she would see artists like Diana Krall and Tina Turner. She would frequently attend Arts in the Parks events where there was both music and dancing. And she was an adventure girl. She loved to travel with her dear friends. She traveled extensively to Europe and stayed for quite some time in France. She went up and down the entirety of the east and west coastlines of the U.S. She traveled to New Mexico and D.C., and of course she traveled to see family in Minnesota. And we were fortunate to be able to travel with Terri as well. We spent our honeymoon with Terri in Monterey and the aquarium, Pebble Beach, 17-mile drive in Carmel by the Sea. That's how much we loved Terri. We toured Sacramento and the surrounding areas, Old Sac, Crocker Museum, Sutter's Fort, Rick's Dessert Diner, the Leland Stanford Mansion, Ansel Hoffman Golf Course, Folsom and Folsom Outlets, UC Davis, and of course, to Leatherby's. We also visited Grass Valley, Modesto, Lake Tahoe, Las Vegas, Sedona, and the Grand Canyon. I am so grateful for these trips, and I cherish those memories. Ever the cheerleader, Terri allowed us to share with her our trips even when we were not with her. We created slideshows about our days on a trip, and immediately she would send them, we would send them to Terri, and she would always reply with a wonderful or a spectacular or a fabulous, and share the energy and excitement of our adventures. We'd giggle and say ooh and ah and wow. She never tired of the many photos, videos we would send, and said that we were taking her with us and that she loved it. She even gave us as a wedding gift a guided tour of Yosemite, the site of our wedding photos and where we celebrated our nuptials with dinner at the Ahwahnee Hotel. She delighted in hearing about our adventures and would put up with our constant updates. I loved that. She shared with us her life, and we were able to share ours. And then, of course, there's chocolate. Terri was a true Lundgren. She loved her chocolate. On one visit to Minneapolis, we went to Cafe Latte in St. Paul for the best chocolate cake ever. Chocolate treks were mandatory: Culver's, 2 Scoops, Anoka Chocolate Shop, Cafe Latte, or when in Sacramento, Leatherby's. We discovered that Wild Cafe in Minneapolis has the best chocolate flour torte, and we had planned on taking her there. We visited the Ghirardelli Chocolate Shop in San Francisco for free samples, and we took a photo of ourselves in honor of her in front of the world's largest cascading chocolate fountain at the Bellagio. Chocolate was a basic food group to Terri. In her mind, cacao comes from a tree and is therefore a salad. Must be good for you. And I know this firsthand. Terri loved her little brother. Not only did she love him, she adored him. Even when he is a fully grown man, a parent and a grandparent, Terri would always call and say affectionately, "Hey, little brother, what's up, little brother?" I'm witness to the fact that they would talk on the phone for hours, and I mean hours. Thank God for unlimited calling. When he was little, Terri would pinch his cheeks, dress him up, and parade him around the neighborhood proudly on the east side as if he were her own child. And when he was little, Paul would stay with Terri in Modesto and attend John Muir Elementary School during 4th grade. It was there when he learned about state maps and California history and made a volcano science project. Paul remembers walking around the block to get to school on his own and feeling safe because he was staying with Terri, as though all was right in the world. Paul loved Here Comes the Sun, played by the Beatles, and Terri would play it for him in the mornings to get his day off to the right start. Later in life, Terri would teach Paul how to use milk cartons to store LP records because they were too poor to buy shelves. And the mischievous Terri would sometimes take him dancing to the clubs, even though he was underage. I remember when Terri came to Minnesota one year, and we went to see my daughter Elise and her kids in Burnsville. It's chilly, but we were there. Terri loved watching my dad roll down the hill with Owen, and me playing with the kids on the slides. She went on and on about how wonderful those kids and my dad are. As a grandma, of course, I 100% agreed with her. She's just so genuinely happy to see them playing in the park, running around and having fun. It's a simple thing, but it brought her such joys to see their play and hear their giggles. We'd send her pictures of the kids. They're now teenagers and young adults. and she'd marvel at how they'd grown. She loved those kids, and like all other aspects of her life, she took delight in the simplest of things. Wordsworth wrote, "The best portion of a good man's life is little, nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and love." Terri was the master purveyor of all these small but significant acts. She'd make homemade cards and send them to you on your birthday. She'd send you funny little gifts, often political. She'd write and send postcards to friends when she traveled, or just whenever. She'd give you a gift of a t-shirt with McClatchy student artwork on it, or spontaneously surprise you with a purse you were eyeing at the store. She'd call. She'd help take the photos at your wedding, and she'd jump up and down exuberantly after the ceremony. She'd share a funny card with you at the grocery store. She would stop at a neighbor's and talk. Terri's not only my sister-in-law, but a dear, dear friend. She once told me, if you'd never met Dwayne, I would still want to have you as my friend. Every time we talked, she told me how she loved me. She was everyone's greatest cheerleader. She'd text fabulous or oh wow. When she would text, she'd say beautiful and praise us for our photos, for their composition, their colors, and their framing. She'd listen to Paul's podcast samples and provide solid bravos for his website. She'd giggle at our walk of shame dance routine. She was a hugger, frequently in touch, and always told us that she loved, loved, loved us. She praised our accomplishments, listened to our frustrations, and shared our joys and tears. As Greg put it, validation was her superpower. There's no better role model on how to live an engaging, purpose-driven life than to watch Terri Lundgren. Everyone thought Terri was younger than she was because she lived younger than she was. She's passionate, curious, empathetic, and loving. Terri was also smart enough to surround herself with good, loving people, people who loved her and whom she loved. She lived as if she meant it. She taught me that you're never too old, it's never too late. Do it now. Take the trip. Love boldly. You're worth it. You get to be you. You be you. Art empowers and art heals. There's no greater gift than friends. Dance. You matter. Laugh. From the pain, take the lesson. Be grateful. Dream. Live your life with purpose, love, and joy. And you get to be happy. She used her personal gifts and passions to help others. I can think no better use of a life. Terri lived by the principles of abundance and gratitude. This is one of her greatest personal gifts to me. She constantly expressed how grateful she was for her life, her family, her great mom, and her friends. I can't think of a single conversation with Terri that didn't include some mention of how grateful she was. Even when things would get rough, she would find a silver lining. Terri was always okay, no matter what. She loved life, she loved her friends and family, and she loved her work. She made the deliberate decision to be happy. Setbacks were hiccups, and there was always a lesson. I'm using that knowledge that Terri was grateful for her life now as my own comfort as I grieve. She constantly expressed how she'd lived a good life and was grateful for it. I always told Terri that she was my bonus prize for marrying Paul. Not only was I blessed by a wonderful brother, but I gained a dear, close sister and friend. Terri touched us all because she lived big and she made better people of us from having known her. Thinking about her life, I realized that the real wealth, the only thing that truly matters in this life, is how we touch the lives of other people. Terri taught me to work hard, how to live fully, how to be proud and to be me, how to reach out to others. I'm a predisposed introvert, and to live big. I'm a better person because Terri was my beautiful bonus sister by marriage and my dear, dear friend. While I am and shall be overwhelmed by the grief that comes in waves, I will still celebrate who she was. I will be inspired by the love that she had for her families and friends. I will be inspired by her example to be kind and compassionate, to reach out to others, to share, to be seen, to be fully present. I will be inspired by her delight in the everyday, the smell of the jasmine on our patio, a daily walk, a delicious meal, a good laugh, a beautiful painting, dark chocolate, good jazz, her adoring descriptions of the giggles of Santini's children. I'll be inspired by her dedication to her teaching and to her students, by displaying their art in the community, by helping students to find their voice through their art and artistic choices, and by genuinely caring. I will be inspired to choose adventure and to travel to many parts of the world and the U.S. to learn about cultures and history and to experience beauty. I'll be inspired to notice and take delight in the little things. I'll be inspired to reach out and call, or write notes, texts, posts, and note cards. I will be inspired by her ability to choose happiness and to daily to express gratitude for her life. I will be inspired by her ability to put people first. I will be inspired to work hard, love fully, and to live and dream big. Barack Obama wrote, "We cannot know for certain how long we have here. We cannot foresee the trials or misfortunes that will test us along the way. We cannot know God's plan for us. What we can do is to live out our lives as the best as we can with purpose, love, and joy. We can use each day to show those who are closest to us how much we care about them and treat others with the kindness and respect that we wish for ourselves. We can learn from our mistakes and grow from our failures. And we can strive at all costs to make a better world so that someday, if we are blessed with the chance to look back on our time here, we can know that we spent it well, that we made a difference, that our fleeting presence has made a lasting impact upon the lives of other human beings." It's been a challenge, a year of challenge and of loss for me. Hard times and new beginnings. I've had way too much practice writing eulogies and attending memorials. One thing that has taught me, after the deaths of my mother, Terri, and 3 dear friends, is to do it now. Don't wait. Call and have coffee with your friend. Take the trip. Read the week. Eat dark chocolate, the good kind. Visit your dad and grandparents if you're lucky enough to still have them. Hug and squeeze your babies. Go to a show or a concert. Take a hike. Listen. Do those things that make you tremble with awe and delight. Write a postcard. Pass it forward. Every little act of kindness is important. I've seen many of those acts today. Thank you. As Mr. Rogers would say, find the helpers and be one. Live each day, don't just exist, drink it in. There's beauty, joy, kindness, and grace everywhere. Just find it. Be aware and be present. Let it sink in. It's the memories that matter. Ted Kennedy wrote, "As you know so well, the passage of time never really heals the tragic memory of such a great loss. But we carry on because we have to, because our loved one would want us to, and because there is still light to guide us in the world from the love that they gave us. We carry on in our hearts." Terry's been released as a new energy, but her light and love lives on. Those of us who grieve have the memories she gave, the good that she did, the dreams that she followed, the spirit and joy that she shared, and the knowledge of the so many lives that she touched. Terri frequently repeated to us that she lived a good life and was grateful and blessed. I take comfort. I imagine Terri and her beautiful smile moving to a new, wondrous, and beautiful place of vanishing points, light, shadow, depth, and perspective. We love you. I'm a librarian, school librarian. The moment to take a portion of a story, Old Turtle, Questions of the Heart. Stories written by Douglas Wood. He visited my schools, and he's now a personal friend. Oh, in the story, the villagers are looking to find wisdom, and they're looking to find Old Turtle. And he says, "Sit here with me among the flowers," said Old Turtle, "in the shelter of the trees. Ask your questions, and I will try to help." So it was that a young man, uncertain about the journey of life before him and worried about its many choices and challenges, asked, "Why are we here, Old Turtle? What is our purpose in life?" "Within your question, it's its own answer," said the Old Turtle, "for the purpose of life is life. We live that there might be more life in the world, more liveliness, more beauty, more generosity, more variety, more of the gift of life itself. Some seem to do this gracefully, almost without effort and without thinking, while others must think hard about the task, about their place in the world. The flowers of this field fulfill their lives in the abundance of their beauty. It is the pleasure of the flowers to give more than simple need requires. They adorn the earth and perfume the air, and they clearly say without the gift of speech that life is good and sweet, and though sometimes tangled in thorns, it is crowned with loveliness. Each and every being in its being is an expression of life, and no one lives alone. We all live for one another, and in doing so, we fulfill ourselves. We find our purpose." A woman with a spark of laughter in her eyes, but whose face was lined with care, asked, "How do we find happiness?" Gently, Old Turtle answered, "Happiness is forever sought," said Old Turtle, "but cannot be found any more than an apple tree can find the apples to place upon its branches. Happiness is the unbidden fruit of our lives. It is the harvest of our growth and the gift of our own giving. Happiness is the long-chased butterfly that finally lands upon the shoulder of one who's put aside his net and simply stands quietly in the sun. And when it arrives, it lands so softly it is barely noticed. But remember, just as the day knows the night, no one can know real happiness who's not also been touched by sorrow. Each is a part of the other, interwoven into the threads of life." "Please tell us about family," said a young girl. There was a hint of shyness in her voice, but her eyes were clear and bright. "Family is the doorway into the house of life, little one," said Old Turtle. "When you are very young, your family is all the world and everything in it. The stars shine in your father's eyes, the sun rises in your mother's smile. When your family gathers around a table together, it seems as though the world is there. And in many ways this is true, for our family is the world made small enough for a child." "Family is the breeze that lifts the kite of childhood into the sky, and it is the string that ties you safely to the earth. Without the string, no kite can fly. Family is a living tree, and it is also the root of your own young tree, allowing you to stretch your branches toward the sun." "But no family is perfect," said Old Turtle. "Sometimes the sitting becomes frayed, the tree becomes poorly tended. Then extra care and support is needed to mend the string, to nurture young roots, and lift its branches to the sky. No one can say all that a family is," said Old Turtle, "nor does any family fulfill itself completely. There comes a time when you learn that your family is not all the world after all, that the world is wider than any family's arms can reach, but that is as it should be. Then perhaps a new family is begun and the world is once more made small enough to hold." He continues, "It is our challenge to dwell in harmony with this deep abiding balance as the heart of life, to live not as refugees from darkness, but as seekers of the light." Now the old woman stopped stooped by the weight of many years and of loved ones lost. And what of death, old turtle? Old turtle's gentle voice became even softer, and her eyes blinked slowly. Death is but the shadow of our living, said old turtle. It comes to all of us. Yet because we love, it causes much fear and pain. Some fear that in death we may dissolve into nothingness, as if it were from nothing that we had come, but is not the nature of things that something comes from nothing. These trees that brush the clouds did not come from nothing, nor did the clouds themselves, nor did the rose, nor the stone, the river, nor the rainbow. All these things that come from something in some place else that is. There is no great nothingness to claim us. Rather, in death, we merely return to the source of our life. Death is but the shadow that life casts. It is always with us, and to fear it is to fear life itself. And softly, so softly, it was more feeling than a sound, they heard old turtle say, "You are the answer, little ones. The persons that you try to be each day is your answer to the whispered question of the dawn. Now, my friends, you've reached and traveled far, and you've had long journeys still ahead. It was the questions in your hearts that brought you here, and your hearts will guide you safely home. As you travel, remember this. Although the path of life may be hard and rough and winding, there's no question of the heart that the heart can ask for which it cannot find an answer." And as the children hugged old turtle one last time, and as the people began their long journey home, a breeze sighed in the trees, and the flowers breathed their sweetness into the air. And old turtle smiled. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gary, Paul, and Deb, for sharing those wonderful memories of Terri. She was a uniquely lovely human being and graced so many with her colorful and joyful presence. Terri had an amazing capacity to notice others, to not only see the individual humanity in each person, but to also accept them, to not only respect others, but to validate them. To all who knew her, she was a light in a sometimes dark world, sharing her smile, love, and laughter generously. Not only did she notice art and beauty everywhere, she created beautiful art and taught others to do the same. She was filled with gratitude for everything and everyone in her life. Terri felt a deep spiritual connection in the energy of all those she loved. She told her brother Paul once that she imagined when she died that her energy would fly out to all the planets and the stars in the far corners of the universe, and that she would join her family and those who've passed before her way out there. We certainly feel the joy and beauty of her energy here today. As we celebrate the relationships, memories, and experiences that we've shared with Terri and that we'll take with us, I'm sure many of you have fond thoughts and memories that you'd like to share too. So we'd like to open it up now for anyone who might like to share memories, and we'll have a microphone that we can bring to you so you don't have to come up here. Or you can just stand, whatever you're most comfortable with. But we'll have the mic for those who are more soft-spoken. And it's very loud, so you're not that too close.
I want to say to Deb, that was so outstanding and so right on with everything I understand and know about Clarene. I'm Diane Studley, and I worked as the Vice Principal of Curriculum and Instruction at McClatchy High School from 1996 to 2002. And the first thing I just want to share, there's some McClatchy teachers here. We were talking earlier about the times and how it was pretty much an extraordinary adventure of that school, because each of the departments were quite outstanding. You could go in and see great, dialogue going on for the purpose of developing curriculum. The art department, which Clarene was involved with, in the past, my experience has been, there are many good artists who can do art, but they can't quite articulate and teach students about how to do what they are able to do. It's one of the most challenging areas. And the first thing I noted when I would walk into class would be, it wasn't typical. Kids were doing things and tasks, and I could just remember from the get-go something called the tree strip. So later on I would be talking to her, what do you do, what's the tree strip all about? And I could ask the students too. I said, what are you doing that for? Because if they can tell you, that shows you there's a level of interaction going on. They're not just sitting there and a teacher saying, here, do that, and they're just doing it because, they want to get the credit for that day. So early on, I understood Clarene was this gifted art teacher, and there were so many kinds of things I would see. I started to talk to her about it. And when we would do, the evaluation, she would actually go to tears sometimes, and I would say, why are you crying? And she said, I've never had anyone, dialogue with me about art and what I'm doing in there. And so she was very moved by it. And somewhere along the line, I think it was the first year I was there, it was a WASP accreditation. Teachers don't like to do that because it's a lot of other work, but it's what you do to show that you're at a great school. And she walked into me that night, because we were both involved in being part of the supervision for the concert that was going on. And she said, you've changed my mind. I didn't really want to ever do a WASC ever again, but I'm going to do it because I liked what you were saying, and I know our department has really been doing, a lot of great things to show the strength of what we're doing for McClatchy. So along the way, I just want to share this because I walked in today and I said, "You're Kathy Warren, aren't you?" She's sitting right here. She says, "Yes." And so, you know, it's like we know each other. I think a lot of those McClatchy teachers, that's a long time ago when I was there, and we still know who we are. And Kathy Warren was next to, not quite next to Clarene, but in the row there, and all those teachers in different departments still had a strong connection with why they were there for students. In my path with Clarene, and you notice I call her Clarene, but I know she kept saying, "You know, I'm Terri out there." And so, but somewhere in our journey, I think I was traveling a couple years into me being there, and she said, "Well, you're gonna take your camera, aren't you?" And I said, "You know, I did that on another trip, and it didn't work. I'm just gonna get some postcards." And I was traveling to India, and she said, "Oh no, you're going to want to do this." But I said, "I don't know. I don't know, really. It's like, I know too much for me." And she says, "You know, I can teach you more about how to do this." And I said, "You can? You're willing to do it?" So we did. We would go out. She says, "Let me plan something. You come." And I learned how to be, I'll just say, a better photographer. And I did take my camera with me, and I got some great things I could have never gotten. She taught me then, I said, "What do you see out there?" Because in artists' eyes, wherever they are, they're seeing what I'm not seeing, but you can tell it because they just get on fire, you know, in a beautiful way. And so she would share, well, you know, a green isn't just one color of green. And so she's seeing 10 shades of green and articulating what she's seeing in the background, foreground. And so for me, I learned so much about, it's not just the visual arts, it's obviously how we extend what we learn into the life of just being. So she and I got connected in a personal way in our journeys also. I also learned, by the way, for anybody here from Modesto, she said, "You know, I played on the Bobcats years ago." And I said, "Well, you know, I coached the team Gold Diggers here in Sacramento. I think we beat those Bobcats." So, you know, we learned about that we had some other connections that we weren't aware of. We didn't know each other at the time. So for me, Clarene, you know, was just an outstanding professional. I think she's well regarded by her colleagues. She made a difference. And the one thing I do want to finish with is when she turned 70, which I think was 2015 maybe, I did something because I wanted to show her. Teachers are famous for not thinking how good they really are. They want to work with kids. They know what their curriculum is. They know how much they love their discipline. And in this case, I wanted her to see something so she could understand in a different way the difference she made as a teacher. So at that time, McClatchy had changed its indoor look. And the current principal at that time was not allowing anything on the walls. So where it once was, you could walk into up those beautiful steps of McClatchy High School and up the stairs and into the main hallway, and you'd see display cases of what, you know, teachers' classes were doing. And in Clarene's case, she did a class called Poster Art. And I would talk to her about that. At first I teased her like, "Well, what do you do with poster art? What can you do with that?" But she did like poster art, like we learned from our social activism, you know, what groups need to do when they're making their point. In this case, she would do all kinds of social justice things, as well as, can I post something for your class? Can I do something for the administration about, you know, working with grades? So she had this poster art class and did it like no one else could do. And so she would get requests from teachers. Her kids would be doing all kinds of art they could put together, and it was posted in all the hallways. So on her 70th birthday, I wanted to show her by her own observation the power of a teacher, because when we walked up those steps, there was not one thing in that hallway. And we went all down the main road there. We went to the left turn at the end of that hall, and I took her back to her classroom in room 37, I believe. And so she could see what she had done, and in her.
Hi, I'm Christina. Some of you know me and are probably afraid of what I will say. Some of you don't and are wondering what I might say. Some things, Diane, she mentioned you to me. My father was an artist, and we talked about art a lot. And you freed her in a way that was really remarkable, because she felt like at last somebody heard and understood what it meant to let art out there. She always spoke very highly of you. And Sandra and Richard and Bob and Greg, Barb, Sharon, Bev, Paul, Dwayne, Gary, Deb. She told me stories about you guys that had me in tears. They were all great stories, because that really was who Terri was. She loved very deeply. So in 1982, I went to Linda Berner's Snow White Ball. It was at the old Victorian mansion, if some of you remember. We were all young then. And I was looking around at all of the women. I lived in, I just moved to Sacramento, and there were a lot of women at that ball. And I was looking up the stairway, and at the top of the stairs, there was this woman standing on the landing doing the same thing. And she had a beautiful smile, like she knew something. So our eyes caught, and to me, she looked like someone that I had recognized, someone that I had known for a really long time. And without hesitation, I walked up the stairs, I stood next to her and said hello. And she said hello back. In that moment, it felt as if we'd already been friends for years. Her name was Terri. We were friends instantly, and the best of friends ever since. Being friends with Terri took very little effort. She didn't ask much. She loved going to lunch. She loved going to dinner. She wasn't much for breakfast, and you already know that. She was more of a late brunch kind of gal. One time she wanted to learn how to cook, and this is before I really understood. And so she came over to my house. We were going to make stew together. And half the time she kept saying, well, show me how to do that. And so ultimately, I ended up cooking the whole meal, but that was what she planned on. And so I thought it was pretty funny now. Anyway, she enjoyed trips. We went to San Francisco. We went to art galleries. We used to go to art galleries every year. We would go to the same art galleries in the city. She enjoyed going to movies because they were fun. She liked going to restaurants. There was very little that Terri didn't really enjoy. She only asked one thing, and that was to always be square with her. She read just about every book written on personality, relationships, how we develop, and she would always share what she learned. Her self-education was mostly about being a better person herself and being a better person to others. So being friends with Terri meant that she would meet you right where you were, without judgment. And if Terri had something delicate to say to you, she'd always wrap it softly and share it kindly. It was easy to feel safe with her, and that translated into trust for me. I could confide in Terri with little concern about my stories or life events becoming community news. That confidence meant that Terri was my safe harbor. I think Terri would have made a great therapist. We'd all been to therapy at some point. She could take the worst of things, though, and turn it around so you'd end up learning something that you didn't know before. And she did it all with humor, so you'd both end up laughing about it. I could pick up the phone at any time to call Terri, and generally it was late at night. sometimes we'd watch the same program, like Saturday Night Live or some other sitcom, and we'd make jokes together about what it is we were watching together. It was kind of a pastime, and we'd laugh really hard. And that laughter would be the bridge that carried us over to the next time that we talked or met. Our humor simply clicked. We had a good time, and it's those good times that cemented that friendship into loyalty. And that loyalty kept us connected throughout the years, through all sorts of ups and downs. If I needed a sounding board, I could call Terri anytime. If I needed someone to just listen, Terri would just listen. And if I wanted some feedback, she'd share her thoughts. I think she was using her teaching skills on me, but I didn't care because I knew that Terri cared, and she cared about friends. And that's what's held us together for 40 years. I'll always love and now miss Terri, and she knows it. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Would anybody else like to come up, or can we bring the microphone to you? You okay to come up?
I'm Lanelle, and Terri and I spent a total of 15 years together as partners. And since October 29th, we've had some time to absorb the shock of Terri's sudden passing, and we've had some time to grieve her loss. And we've had time to be reminded of what a special person she was. To Terri's family, Paul, Deb, Gary, I can't find any words to say how sorry I am for the loss of your sister. You've been here taking care of the final arrangements and business matters, and you've had really not the opportunity to grieve. When you get back to your homes, I'm sure you will have the love and support of all your families and friends to help you get through this. Terri's spirit lives on in the memories of those who loved her. There are some things death simply cannot touch. Love is so much stronger than death. Terri touched the lives of everyone around her, from her family to the students and faculty at McClatchy to friends and neighbors. She had that special talent of conversing with total strangers. She had the ability to make newcomers feel like old-timers and made space for everyone and anyone who needed it. Those of faith who believe that Terri's spirit is in heaven with God and reunited with her mom that she loved so much, we solemnly embrace the thought that death is not the end. It is a step all of us will take at some point. In its simplest explanation, it means to move to a more joyful place in eternity. Terri was never afraid of death. I know by now she has met everyone in heaven. She had that fancy camera, and more of late, she's probably got a heavenly iPhone and is taking photos and painting pictures of heaven, all that heaven has to offer. She's going on shopping sprees with her mom at the Pearly Gates shopping mall. She's stopping at the Heavenly Ice Cream Shop for hot fudge sundae and extra hot fudge. And she's dancing every chance she can. Terri was such a lover of chocolate. I know the stock prices at Ghirardelli Chocolate have taken a huge hit since she left. When Paul arrived in Sacramento shortly after Terri's death and was staying in her house, I told him to please not turn on the oven until he removed its contents, as Terri used it as a storage closet. She often said, and I'll reiterate what Paul said, is that she only had the kitchen because it came with the house. When we shopped, the least thing she shopped for or was even thinking about was food supplies. I did the shopping. She used the trip to the store as a means to get her steps in for the day. and to chat with strangers. As much as we may try, we never really get over a loss like this, but we can move forward and evolve from it. We can resolve going forward in our own lives to never take life for granted. We can savor every sunrise because no one is promised tomorrow or even the rest of today. In times like these, it tells us not to waste time. It tells us to follow our hearts and be in relationships that feed our souls. It reminds us to surround ourselves with those who love, support, and care about us. It reminds us to live each day to the fullest as if it were the last one we had. If we try really hard to practice empathy, we can be aware of each other's journey and see the challenges we each are facing. When we do this, we will be on the road to treating each one we know and those we meet with a lot more love, kindness, compassion, and respect. Because in the end, nothing, absolutely nothing we do or say in this lifetime will matter as much as the way we have loved one another. Someone so beautifully said that death is not extinguishing the light, it is putting out the lamp, for the dawn has come. Terri, you will be deeply missed but never forgotten. You are gone way too soon, my friend. May you fly with the angels and explore the vast universe you love so much. One last thought. I think we can thank Terri for this much needed rain we've had this week. As those closest to her know, she was always cold. We would all have on our summer outfits and Terri would have on her jacket and scarf. I'm sure she has asked around, been there long enough, and found the heavenly thermostat and has cranked it up a few notches, and now the clouds are melting into the rain. Thank you, Terri.
Would anyone else like to share?
I'd like to say something. I'm Jammin Jo. I'm not good. We all heard everything about Terri today, but I'm going to speak briefly on the music because she always would. There's a dance coming up shortly that I've been DJing for many, many years, and I always look forward to hearing from Terri because she was going to say, "I just found this new album or this song. Can you play it or can you bring it to me?" Or she would just bring me stuff, and I'm going to miss that greatly. And I'm having a dance January 27th that I happened to plan a while back, and it's a decades dance, so I'm going to dedicate it to Terri. So I hope you guys can make it. So I know one thing she wants us to do is dance. Dance. Even if you don't like to dance, dance. Just sit in your seat. That's what Terri was. Bless you.
I'd like to say something. For those of you who, I'm Beverly, and to Terri I was Bev's son, and she was Terri's son. And we used to go to Miyagi's on Fair Oaks for many, many years before it actually sold, with two owners, Tony and Sam, owned the place. And we'd go up to the bar, and not the drink bar, the sushi bar. And Tony got to know us so well that we didn't even have to say anything. We just went to the bar and he knew exactly what we wanted, and he'd flip, the raw meat, the raw sushi on our plates for us to taste different things, and she loved that sea urchin. I tried it once with her and I said, "Girl, I could not do that." The first time I met Terri was at Sharon Fontenot's house. She had a party there. And I was 36 at the time, and I didn't know how old Terri was, and somebody here said earlier today how beautiful Terri was, and of course, I was single and sat down beside her and thought I'd make the Bev moves on her. And she was hysterical. I just remember her going, well, how old are you? And so, I told her, and she said, so how old would you somebody older than you, how many years would you, do? And I don't know, 8, 10. She never said her age. She wasn't interested, but we became friends actually after that party. And it was not until years later, till I think it was her late 60s, or it might have been when she turned 70, as she finally knew I was 14 years younger than her. And I said, you never said anything on that couch, And she said, I just wanted to see how far you were going to go with it, But I'd like to, what Jolene was saying and how much she loved music, and her and I used to exchange music all the time and CDs with one another, and at that time it was cassettes. So she'd come over to the house and she always wanted Cabernet, and she'd have it with one glass of Cab, and we'd sit there and listen to music, and she was something else, Terry. She really was. I love her and I'll miss her, and I'm so sorry for the family, and to know today how much she was loved by everybody here. She certainly was, and she was quite the character. I will miss her beautiful smile and her laughter. And meeting at Miyagi's, which is still there.
Any other sharing? So as we sit with the loving thoughts and memories that all of you have shared, let's share a moment of silence to hold those memories in our hearts, to hold Terri and her spirit in this moment, wishing her well on her journey to the stars. With loving gratitude for Terri, her laughter, her smile, and all the amazing gifts that she brought to this life, we'll just take a moment of silence now. have a few final words in closing. It is with both, so I just have a few final words in closing. It is with both grief and gratitude that we say our final goodbye to Terri. Our gratitude comes from deep within our hearts for having had the experience of knowing Terri as a family member, a friend, and a colleague, for being a part of her life, and for all the ways that she blessed so many lives. She is now infinitely available to us by her memory and in spirit, and we are grateful. We go forward into our lives and into the light, knowing that the sun will continue to warm the earth and bring forth new life in the spring. The flowers and grasses will bend in the wind, and the rivers will flow into the sea as the cycle of life continues in all of its beauty and majesty. In all of these things, we will see Terri as she remains with us in our hearts and minds. Know that Terri's spirit will live on in all of you who knew and loved her. Bid her farewell now, taking your precious thoughts of her with you, and leave this place today in quietness of spirit with renewed love and care for one another. Blessings to all. And please enjoy refreshments and time of sharing before you go.